Hey guys, it's Kevin again, my review for Onward. And what Onward's essentially about is we center on these two brothers. We have Ian and Barley, and they have grown up without a father for a long time. Barley has distant memories of their father, but Ian, because he's the younger one, has never really had much of a father, very much at all. So one day when he's now turning 16, he asks his mom a question about his father, and she reveals that there has been this spell in the attic for years that basically is able to bring him back for just 24 hours. And so obviously Ian takes the opportunity to, want to partake in this to bring his father back. However, the spell ends up going horribly wrong, and they're only able to get the bottom half of his body. So basically now it's a race against the clock to try to get their father back to revert to his original form and complete this quest and everything, and that's really all I'm going to say. So, Onward overall, I was very obviously looking forward to this film. I mean, anytime Pixar has a movie coming out, I am absolutely there. I think that they are just the best when it comes to these kinds of films. And actually, prior to this film, I've been combing through their entire, filmography. I'm gonna probably finish it not till Soul, but, it really just reminded me just how creative and just how good they are at these kinds of stories. And I'm very happy to say that Pixar has absolutely done it again. This is such a delightful and fun film, but also has a really nice heartfelt message in there that I really loved immensely. But we're just getting to right now, starting off with the voice cast. And I think that's something that Pixar always tends to do well. They always do cast some really great actors, but especially when it comes to this film, everyone is so well casted, especially when it comes to the combined effort of Tom Holland and Chris Pratt, who absolutely have some of the best vocal chemistry of the entire year. I think they're going to end up being one of my favorite duos. However, for me, Tom Holland is the really big standout here, not just because he's the main character, but what he has to do in this role as Ian. He does a very strong job with, I think. Ian is someone that, he's very quiet, he's very reserved in that way, he's very nerdy, and he's a little bit more, socially awkward, and he does go through the biggest transformation out of everyone, and I thought Holland just did such a great job playing this character that he is very sort of socially awkward and nerdy, and really transformed into someone who's far more fearless in that way, and I just thought he did such a great job in this role. I was very impressed with him, and then Chris Pratt has some really nice comedy in there as well. He does a really good job at playing sort of like the foil of Ian, and like I said, these two just work off each other so well. They work so well together, and I really do not feel this movie would be nearly as good if it wasn't for these two. You really do need two great actors to carry this film, and gratefully this film very much does work with its two. They absolutely found the right people to play these roles, and I really did love what they brought to the table here. Absolutely one of the best things about this film for sure. But the rest of the cast also does do some great work. Julia Louis-Dreyfus is obviously really good as their mother. She's always gives a very strong performance. She's a great actress overall. But Octavia Spencer, I have to say, this is probably one of my favorite roles from her in a while. I love the role she's playing here as the Manticore, because this is someone who, obviously, because the world used to be full of magic and things like that, and has kind of lost its luster in that way, she herself is kind of in that same position, where she's now just, this boss of this restaurant, and she's trying to do what she can to make her restaurant as nice as possible because she's so concerned about, getting a bad review and things like that. And they do so many fun things with this character, especially when she starts to sort of embrace her original self more and kind of revert back to what that was. And I just thought she was so great in this film. She was absolutely hysterical, but she also just played a really great character, and I could tell she was having a lot of fun in this role, and I just really loved what she ended up doing here. Mel Rodriguez is also really good, though, as their stepfather in the film. I thought he definitely did a really good job. And then Lena Waithe and Ali Wong, not really in this movie all that much at all, but for what they have, they definitely do a really strong job. Really, everyone here, voice cast-wise, I mean, really should not be a surprise, but everyone just does a very strong job. And as usual, Pixar just always knows how to bring it when it comes to voice talent here. But something else they always know how to bring is the directing and the writing, and I'm really happy with the director for this film. The director of this film is Dan Scanlon, who did in fact do a film that I think is really underrated, Monsters University, a movie that I feel should get way more credit than it does. It's not my favorite Pixar movie or anything, but it is a really great Pixar film, and he definitely did a really great job with this, and I do think he was absolutely the right choice for this kind of thing, because his prior work was a buddy comedy of sorts, so it makes sense for him to take this on, and he just reminded me how good he is at these kind of stories, and the way he's able to make this film so relentlessly entertaining and consistently hilarious in that way, but then also blend it in with this just very palpable amount of heart and this very palpable amount of sentimentality to it. I just thought he did such a great job directing this. I really felt his passion throughout this entire movie, and I hope he does get to do more stuff in the future, because I do think he's a very underrated director in terms of Pixar. I hope they utilize him a bit more after this movie, because I thought he did a really good job directing this for sure. It all just felt very... Again, it all just felt very fluid in that way, and I was just very impressed with what he ended up doing. But the writing as well is fantastic in this film. It might be my favorite thing about this entire movie, besides the voice cast, obviously, is the writing here. Because on the surface, this premise is already very interesting, and it seems like something that Pixar can knock right out of the park. I mean, having these two characters basically just walking around with nothing but a pair of pants, it does sound really silly, but it seems like just something that is right up Pixar's alley. I remember people kept getting worried. They're like, oh, this is a really stupid idea, but I always kept up hope. I always kept the faith that, like, this is perfect for Pixar, because they always thrive on very unique and very abstract type concepts and giving life to things that normally wouldn't, and they do exactly that here, and they do it really well. From the beginning, we get the sense that both of these characters are in very different positions when it comes to having a father. Like I said, Barley has about 3 or 4 memories of his dad. You know, they're very hazy in that way, but he does remember, you know, the connection that they once did have. While Ian, on the other hand, he's never really had a father before. And so there's different reasons why they want their father to come back. There's things that Ian wants to do because he's never had a father before. He keeps carrying this checklist around because he wants to be able to bond with him, and the way they're able to make these pair of pants feel real, make it feel like this is an actual person, was really well done. They got really creative with that, and I was just really impressed with the way they did. There's so many clever ways they make you care for just literally just a pair of pants. I don't know how they did it, but Pixar's able to pull it off, and I was so impressed by that. But the characters of Ian and Barley are also just so well written in that way, because we really do understand who they are. I mean, these are two very different people. Barley is very loud, he's very brash, he's very overly confident, he's very masculine in that way. You know, he's someone that is sort of a rebel, he gets in trouble a lot, you know, his mom's, his mom's boyfriend will constantly talk about how, he's very rebellious and things like that. And so, that's kind of Barley. But Ian, on the other hand, is much more quiet. He's far more reserved. He's very socially awkward. He's very scared of just everyday things. And the contrast between those two is so good. Seeing how these two characters are obviously clashing with each other, it just makes a lot of sense. They did a really good job with writing out these two characters, but also showing from the beginning that they're anything but just stereotypes. There's different things to them than just that. They're far more fleshed out in that way. There's a lot more going on with Barley especially than you would expect, and I really did appreciate that for sure, and I thought they did a really good job with where they end up going with this character. But like I said, Ian really is the main character of this movie. He's the one that has the most going on emotional wise, and I just felt very connected to his character, because I feel like we've all been like Ian, where we're in this position where, we don't really have that confidence in ourselves. We don't really believe like we can pull something off, but we somehow find a way to. We learn that, we learn to overcome some of our fears. And these are messages we've seen in Pixar movies before, but this film is able to pull it off in such a way that makes it feel fresh, that makes it feel special, and I was just very impressed by that. And the quest itself that they're going on is also a lot of fun. I think that's one that a lot of people are going to find themselves invested in. There's a lot of fun sort of elements to it, especially when it comes to Barley, who, he's obsessed with, like, Dungeons and Dragons and things like that, and Magic the Gathering and that kind of stuff. So he's kind of using this as like a guide, and the fact that he's using this and thinking that it's actually real is part of the fun of this movie. I think that's what makes this such a fun adventure. It makes it not just a simple road trip movie. There's a lot more that it has to offer besides that, and I really did appreciate that here. And oh my god, when it comes to the feels, this film definitely does deliver on that front. I think if you have a sibling or you have some sort of a connection to someone, no doubt you are going to cry during this movie. No doubt this movie is going to affect you. But even someone like me, who doesn't have any siblings, I still did find myself getting almost a bit teary-eyed at points in this movie, and it doesn't feel forced. I've never understand people saying, oh, Pixar is emotionally manipulative in that way. I feel like that's not really true, because I feel like every emotion in this movie was absolutely earned. There are many times where the film will have some hilarious moments, whether it's things like, Barley's strange relationship with his car Guinevere, who he admires a lot and things like that, or them having to control their dad, almost like a dog, putting him on a leash because, it's just a pair of pants. He can't actually see them. There's only one way that he can actually tell that they're there. So there's that, or something that, like, the Manticore would say. The humor is really great in this movie. There's a lot of really funny and creative gags here, but it also really does deliver on the emotional front, and I thought it was really well done. The actual message of this movie is not really what you probably would expect. Yes, from the concept alone, you're already expecting emotion. You're already expecting something really heartfelt, but the actual message of this movie is far different than you're really expecting. It really is a story about brotherhood and how much these two rely on each other, how much they need each other in that way. And I think that's something that's very special. I think that's a story that Pixar tells very well here, because that's not really something they've delved with before. They've told stories about family, they've told stories about father and son, but not really about brotherhood, and that was just really great to see, and I really love the way they delivered on that front. So I just found the screenplay to be just really entertaining, really fun. The quest that they go on is really creative in that way too. I was just very impressed by the way all that was done, and just some really great writing overall. But the animation here, I mean, no surprise, it's absolutely incredible. Just the way they're able to build this world and give a magical feel to it, even though all the magic has been sucked out of it, is astounding to me. I mean, they're able to give this look a very distinctive feel that, yes, at points does look like our world, but that's the point. The point is that this world has become corrupted by, like, technology and sort of advantages, in modern society, that they just don't rely on magic anymore. There's always another reason why they don't need magic, and the way they're still able to bring this world to life, and the way they're able to, get you so invested in it, I thought was really well done. There's so much creative stuff going on, especially the different places that Barley and Ian go to. I mean, the animation is always a, highlight in Pixar films. I think even their worst films, like the Cars movies, still have incredible animation, and this film is no different when it comes to that. Just the character designs and the world building, just mwah, mwah. That's what I want to see in a Pixar movie, and that's something that Pixar absolutely delivers on here through and through, and I was so impressed by the way they did that. And then the score here as well is fantastic. It's one that I could definitely see myself listening to outside of just this film. I could definitely see myself listening to it on its own, because it is very riveting. It is one that is definitely, I think you're going to hum coming out of this movie. I really did enjoy the score quite a lot, and Belinda Carlisle's song as well that she provides for this movie I actually thought was really catchy and fun, and I definitely definitely really did appreciate that. And the editing here, I will say I did feel that the first act of this movie was a little bit rushed, but once they go on this quest, I was very much into it from there. I was locked in the second they went on to the quest, and the film just really flew by after that, and I think you're going to have a really good time when it comes to the editing in this movie. I don't think this is a film where you're going to feel the length very much at all. There's always something interesting going on in that way, and I definitely really did appreciate that. So again, there's a lot that I really do love about this film, but are there some flaws? Yes, this is definitely not one of Pixar's masterpieces or anything like that, so there are just a couple things that do bring it down. I already did talk about how I did feel the first act was a little bit rushed, but my bigger flaw, I would say, is Mel Rodriguez's character. It's not that I didn't like his character, because I saw what they were trying to do with him. He's the stepdad that Barley and Ian just don't really connect with all that well. They don't really care about him that much. But there just isn't a lot to him. I found his arc to be very underwritten. There's a really good scene with him that I thought was actually really good. I'm like, okay, this is actually going to go somewhere. It really doesn't. He's just kind of the cop that is chasing after them because they need a cop to come after them in this movie. Which does lead to some really funny moments, including one that is maybe the funniest scene in the entire movie. It involves a certain movie reference, and I was just dying of laughter when it happened. I thought it was so great what they did there. But his character overall just felt a little bit one-note to me. I feel like they could have developed him a little bit more. But other than that, there really isn't a lot to complain about with this movie, especially considering the way it ends, which is just really going to tug at your heartstrings, I think. Onward overall is just such a creative and fun film that I think is really going to put a smile on many people's faces. It's got great characters in both Ian and Barley. It has a really great relationship at the center of it involving these brothers. It's got a really great side quest. It's got some beautiful animation, as always, a great score, some excellent directing, some truly hysterical moments, but also some moments that are very heartfelt. It's just everything that Pixar really does best. It's everything we've come to expect from them. It's absolutely another great hit from Pixar for sure. And for those who have said that Pixar has lost its touch, I would very much disagree. I think they are still churning out some excellent films, such as this one. This is definitely a very, very creative film that I had a great time with, and I'm definitely going to give Onward overall in A-. But over, guys, to my review of Onward. Let me know what you guys saw this movie overall. Left your thoughts on it. We'll see you guys in my next video, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.